This whole town runs on overtime. Everybody working 2 and 3 jobs flat. The diner closes at 2 and opens back at 5. And nobody around here's got time for a chat. Maria works the school lunch line at 7 and cleans the dental office 4 to 8. Then goes home to 3 kids and a pile of laundry, and somehow makes it work and keeps it straight. The Reyes brothers run the auto shop till 9, and on the weekend haul for a landscaping crew. Their father worked here, and he worked here just as hard. This overtime time is all they ever knew. The hardware store is run by Sandra Jensen, who opens up at 6 and shuts at 9. Her daughter helps on weekends home from college. Sandra says the overtime is fine, 'cause what's the alternative, she asked me? You let the hardware close and lose the line. School board cut the budget 3 years running, so the teachers buy the classroom supplies themselves. Mrs. Dolan spends $200 of her own money to keep the books on the 4th grader shelves. The crossing guard named Earl is 67, works the pizza counter on his nights. He lost his pension when the county restructured, but Earl just works the guard between the lights. The overtime town does complain about, it's not a protest march or a demand. It's just the math of keeping everything function when the numbers and the people don't quite land. We all just work the extra and the after, 'cause it's what it takes in this overtime land. They call it the gig economy on television, like it's something new and cool and fresh and bright. We just call it Thursday and we call it midnight. We call it doing what you had to do to get it right. Overtime town, nobody's off the clock. Overtime town, running around the block. Double shift breakfast and a late night run. Overtime town, never quite done. We ain't rich and we ain't resting either. We all working 'cause working is the code. Overtime town in the middle of America. Overtime town, carrying the load. Overtime town, nobody's off the clock. Overtime town, running round the block. Double shift breakfast and a late night run. Overtime town, never quite done. We ain't rich and we ain't resting either. We are working 'cause working is the code. Overtime town in the middle of America. Overtime town, carrying the load. I've seen the news articles about the heartland, about the dying towns and the forgotten belt. They drive through on the interstate and write about us like we're a wound they never actually felt. But the wound is working and the wound is children, and the wound makes breakfast and it makes the road. And the wound has got a second job on Thursday, and the wound is carrying its own full load. So come down off the interstate and sit with us. Buy a cup of coffee from Maria and stay. Overtime town, nobody's off the clock. Overtime town, running round the block. Double shift breakfast and a late night run. Overtime town, never quite done. We ain't rich and we ain't resting either. We are working 'cause working is the code. Overtime town in the middle of America. Overtime town, carrying the load. Overtime town, nobody's off the clock. Overtime town, running round the block. Double shift breakfast and a late night run. Overtime town, never quite done. We ain't rich and we ain't resting either. We are working 'cause working is the code. Overtime town in the middle of America. Overtime town, carrying the load. So here's to Maria and the Reyes boys and Sandra. Here's to Earl working the counter late at night. Here's to Mrs. Dolan and her 4th grade classroom. Here's to every soul in this overtime fight. Overtime town, we'll keep the lights on burning. Overtime town, till we get it right.